Hello everybody and welcome back. And the party are here, and that is 2 weeks away from Specularum. And apart from this small rock, which is just visible on the horizon, well actually it's an island about 20 miles across, for most of the past week they have seen nothing but empty ocean. And Malin is looking out at the horizon and he can even see the curve of the planet. And he begins to wonder, is Mystara actually shaped like a ball? Food for thought. The last day ended with an attack by a sea hydra that had 9 heads. 2 crew members got chomped and lifted off the deck of the ship and swallowed. The ship still can function, though the party are told that they might have to chip in with some of the more mundane tasks like shifting food around the place and fetching things. Donard is more than happy to chip in. He's getting rather bored and agitated. Sylvia, Liz and Malin would like to help, but they really don't know what they can do. And Carrick is largely confined to his hammock, where he lies there clutching his stomach, wondering why he isn't 500 feet under the earth where things are sensible. What on earth is he doing in this little wooden bathtub on top of the ocean? After some prayers were sent to the sailors that we lost, everybody goes to bed. They wake up on the 15th day, and let's have a look at the wind. It's as bad as ever. Right, that's an extremely light breeze, so we move 1 hex. Oh dear, let's check for wandering monsters. And there is one. Alright. Just when the 2 weeks here were quite mundane, all of a sudden it begins to kick off. Right, I did pre-roll a wandering monster, and as I showed last time, you roll for a type, and then you roll for a creature that fits that type. And we got a swimmer, and when you look at the swimmer table, there are 3 chances you will get a water termite. We have not had a water termite before, so this is where we get to read up on a new monster. Termite, water. Termites range from 1 to 5 feet long, and the largest are only found in ocean waters. All are shaped like normal termites, except for an elastic sac in their abdomen, which can intake and expel water for movement and feeding. When the sac is completely expanded, the creature looks like a large balloon with a small insect-like head on the front. The creature does not bite unless cornered. Instead, it will use an inky spray for defense. When frightened above water, a normal hit roll must be made. A victim hit by the spray must make a saving throw versus poison or be paralyzed. If frightened underwater, the ink does not paralyze, but merely provides an inky cover for the creature's retreat. The real terror of these creatures is the destruction they bring to ships. They cling to the hulls, each causing points of hull damage equal to their bite before letting go. Once any damage has been inflicted, there is a 50% chance per round that someone will notice the leakage. Our ship has got hull points, and it's quite a lot of them. It has 120 to 180. And each of these do 1 to 6 points of damage. There happens to be in this encounter 6 of them, so I didn't find any instructions on how the hull gets breached and how much damage gets done to the hull before there is a leak. Are we to assume that every bite breaks through, or are we to assume that they will take a nibble but the actual plank of wood is still in place and intact? Well, there is a section here called Repairs. Half the damage from any type of attack can be repaired if 5 or more crewmen are assigned to repair duty. The rate of repairs is 1 hull point of damage per full turn of work. Repairs at sea are makeshift. Each 10% of hull damage reduces speed by 10% until repairs in port. Okay, we'll work out the mathematics of that later. This ship, the Torrentius, is of average size and has 140 hull points. So 14 points of damage is 10%. Presumably, they still have to attack the ship, which means the ship has an armor class of 7, so they might take a bite, but it might be ineffective. Right, okay, so 6 water termites have attached themselves to the hull of the ship, and we're told there's a 50% chance per round that somebody will notice the damage, and that will be the cabin boy who is in the bottom of the ship trying to get food ready for the ship's cook. He rolls a 53, so he doesn't hear anything. Right, the first round, I will roll for each of the termites and see how much damage they do. They have a THAC of 16 and the ship has an armor class of 7, so they need to roll a 9 or more to hit. And both of them do, and they do 10 points. Right, the ship's down to 130. That one hits, and that's another 3 points. The ship's down 100 to 127. That's 13 points taken off it. And the last two both hit again, and that's another 6 points. So the ship has lost 19 points of damage. That's enough to cause some form of leaking. Right, now we're told the termites detach themselves after they have bitten the ship. Okay, so nobody notices anything the first round. Round number 2. Yes, that's 26. So while he's gathering up a sack of spuds to bring upstairs to the galley, the cabin boy hears something nibbling through the planks of the ship, and sure enough, he sees a little leak burst through. So he drops the spuds and runs up on deck, shouting, "Captain, Captain." And Captain Trelawney wants to know what happens, and the cabin boy says the ship is under attack from below. Right, so let's see in a minute what the crew can do about this. Right, so Captain Trelawney runs down the steps to the bottom of the ship. Kane, whose job it is to make sure the ship is okay, runs after him, even though he's normally not quite sure what's going on. Donard follows. Carrick is still laid up in a hammock. Malin and Liz, well, they got attacked by the Hydra. They're not so certain, so they will just stay under deck, and Sylvia follows too. When they all get to the bottom deck, sure enough, water is spurting through some small holes in the hull, and Captain Trelawney automatically says termites. Donard nods and points to 5 other holes, one of which is just barely leaking. Okay, well, this problem is solvable. All ships have a lot of carpentry equipment on board for such repairs, as ships getting damaged is expected. They also have a barrel of pitch to act as glue and a sealant. But of course you don't heat pitch up underneath the deck. That has to be brought up on deck, melted and carried downstairs. But what are they going to do about the termites? They look at Kane, who is still trying to work out what is going on. Donard has no patience for this, so he just says, "I'll do it." Sylvia says, "Do what?" But Donard just answers by turning to the captain and saying, "I'll need a ladder." So what is going to happen next is that the captain is going to organise all the sailors to hoist the sails to stop the ship from moving. Then get everybody to busy away repairing the ship. It should take the guts of the whole afternoon if all 18 sailors are working on it. But of course, the first thing is to get the ship to stop moving. Then Sylvia finds herself running up the stairs behind Donard. When they get onto the deck, he starts taking off his armour, but he keeps his warhammer. He puts his shield to one side. He keeps his ring of protection +1 on and his ring of fire resistance. A ladder is found and it is hung over the edge of the ship, and it extends well below the water line. Donard just says to Sylvia, "You have that water breathing spell? Well, cast it on me." By this time, Liz and Malin have followed him up on deck to see what's going on. Malin says, "What are you thinking of doing?" Donard doesn't have the patience for this, so he just turns to Sylvia again and says, "Just cast it on me, okay? I've done this before." And she casts water breathing on Donard, and this is a spell we have not cast before. So, in the tried and trusted way of doing things, let us look at water breathing. And it's a rather small spell here with only 4 lines of a description. Range 30 feet. They're standing beside each other. Effect: 1 air-breathing creature. Duration: 1 day. This spell allows the recipient to breathe while underwater at any depth. It does not affect movement in any way, nor does it interfere with the breathing of air. Right, so Sylvia casts water breathing on Donard. He swings himself over the side of the ship and onto the rope ladder and starts climbing down it while everybody else looks on concerned. He doesn't have his armour on, but he still has his warhammer. When he gets below the waterline, they see him detach from the ladder and swim under the ship. And from his point of view, what does he see in the silent depths of the ocean? Well, he sees about 4 water termites swimming away using their bladder, this sort of bladder type sack thing, as their jet propulsion. He sees another termite still on the ship and he is going to have a swing at it with his hammer. I'm going to have to give him the same kind of penalties you would get if you were blind, which is a -4 THACO penalty and perhaps a -2 to damage because he's working against pressure of the water. Right. Can he hit this termite? It has an AC of 5 and his melee THACO at the minute is 17. So he needs a 12 or more to hit. And he misses. Right. The termite is going to have another go at the ship. And it does not bite through the hull. So he's going to have one last swing at it. And he misses again. Right. So the termite is going to have another bite at the hull. And it succeeds. Donard has one last chance to swing at it before this thing scoots away. That was another 4 points of damage to the ship. It has lost 23 points and is down to 113. And he hits it and he does 5 plus 2 points of damage. That is not enough to kill the termite because they have quite a good hit points. This one had 12. So in the silent depths of the water, Donard swings his warhammer much slower than normal. It hits the termite and the termite just reacts by splurting out some black ink. By the time it clears, or by the time Donard gets out of the cloud of ink, he sees the termite has gone. These are not aggressive creatures. They don't deliberately attack. They have no interest in eating people. So that was the final hole in the ship. Right, okay. He climbs back up the rope ladder, dripping wet of course, and a sailor comes up to him with a cloth to dry off with. He takes the cloth but goes down to the hull of the ship to see how repairs are getting on and to report back to the captain. Yes, he can confirm it's termites, but they have all gone. Right, so this is day 15 and the ship is going nowhere for the day. It will take the entire day to repair the ship. Now we're told that these holes, even if they are repaired, will only ever be makeshift and the ship moves at 10% its normal rate. Now that is going to be difficult to calculate when you're moving 3 hexes and 2 hexes. The only way you can really take away 10% is if you were using the travel speed for an encounter, if you were being pursued or you were doing the chasing. Or perhaps you could count 10 hexes and subtract 1. So when the party move 10 hexes, they will have really only moved 9. Though I think these holes are rather small, so if the ship does moor in the Isle of Dread, there will be time for these sailors to fix these holes to almost as good as new. So this is a temporary setback until we can establish a base on the island. Right, so day 16. Are there any more encounters? There aren't. The ship is repaired. What was the weather like on day 16 while the ship was standing still with its sails all hoisted? That seems to indicate good weather, possibly friendly. Yep, so there are some small clouds on the horizon, but it looks like that they will blow away. Yes, the weather turns good. Day 16, the party are still there. On the morning of day 17, the sails are lowered and the wind catches them. What is the wind today? 9. Oh good, that's strong winds. That is, we move 4 hexes. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're here at the end of day 17. What was the weather like today? Strong winds. Looks like it might rain. Yeah, it looks 50-50. Clouds are gathering overhead. Will they blow away? Yes, they do. The clouds leave. Is there an encounter for day 17? There isn't. So, the party wake up on day 18 and there's a good chance they will get their first glimpse of the Isle of Dread. So what is the wind like on day 18 and where did they end up? Oh, becalmed. Right. Just when they're on the verge of seeing the island, the wind drops completely. Right. Okay. Let's just do a weather check. This is day 18. The party are stuck on the same spot. But the weather promises to be, well, it's uncertain. They are in the tropics, but this island is known for its foggy, inclement weather, so perhaps it's the rainy season. Well, yeah, it looks like it could rain as dark clouds gather, but they don't drop their rain, they just look ominous. Is there an encounter as the ship sits becalmed? There isn't, so they wake up on day 19. It's gonna take them the guts of 3 weeks to get to this island. What are the winds like? Oh good. A score of 10 is for high winds, and that means the ship can move at 1.5 hexes. 1 1/3 will give us 4 hexes, and the extra half we can discount as the 10% for the hull damage. So finally, the party get to see their first glimpse of the Isle of Dread in the middle of the day. Liz was milling about the cabin, feeling useless. It was clear that sailing was a skill, and she hadn't picked up anything over the 2 weeks on board. Donard was constantly busy on deck, and it was obvious to everyone that he had spent time at sea. It was their only glimpse into the enigmatic cleric's past. The little windows in the cabin were open, and there was finally a strong wind blowing. It had been getting noticeably warmer, and all those still, rainy days made everyone feel clammy and sticky. She went to go on deck to breathe deeply of the wind. As she opened the hatch to the deck, there was a voice calling, "Land ahoy!" Everyone left their post and ran to the side of the ship. There, on the horizon, was a distinct grey band of land. A chair went up, despite its name, the Isle of Dread. And, as the hard work seemed to come to an end, Liz saw how dirty, sweaty and ragged the sailors looked. The day went on, and it seemed like another 2 weeks for the island to get closer. The entire north face was a wall of cliffs that plunged into the sea. They were topped with a thick fog from which tall trees poked through. The churn of the sea and the foam of the waves could be seen from miles away. Captain Trelawney gave orders to steer west. Rocks everywhere, he said. The sailors jumped to with renewed vigour. Carrick came on board. The party gathered at the helm of the ship. "Home, sweet home," the dwarf said ruefully. With the afternoon sun lowering towards the west and the strong wind blowing, the party were each caught up in their thoughts of this new strange land. It seemed to be looking back at them like a low, squat animal biding its time and daring anyone to come closer. They've got 2 more hexes to go, and they're going to journey here, giving this a wide berth because rocky cliffs without a beach denotes a rocky seabed, and of course the last thing the ship needs is to hit rocks. And as has been described in the letter and in other rumours, the island is permanently shrouded in a fog. The end of day 19, they're coming to the end of their journey. They still have to find somewhere to land. This adventure has proved to be one filled with maps, and I approve. We began in Threshold and made our way to Specularum. The party spent several days in Specularum, picking up the adventure and the ship, the Termites. We spent 19 days at sea, and finally we're near the end of the voyage. And I will move from this map to these ones here. This is the one that the party are consulting. The ship's captain has had several days to look over this with the navigator, and when we cross-reference it with the letter, we can clearly guess these red X's are the settlements that are mentioned as a good place to berth. There's this version, which is for the DM, with all the encounters marked on it. I will probably do a lot of work on those encounters when the party finally make it to the internal part of the island. And finally, we have my printout version, which is a bit of a failure as the hex lines on the sea have just disappeared into the blue. I do wonder how the players would use this map since it's part of the DM screen. They would be able to look at it from across the table, but they wouldn't be able to handle it and make marks on it. Even though it is for them, you would have to tear it off, which I would be loath to do. And also, the way this is folded, you can't actually flatten it, okay? But I will be using this for the time being. And the Termites, we are 24 miles off the coast, and each of these hexes is 6 miles, so we are 4 hexes off the coast, somewhere underneath this compass rose. And that is where we are on the end of day 19. So we wake up on day 20, and what is the wind doing for us today? Okay, not that great. That is a moderate breeze, which means we are moving at 2/3 speed. So instead of covering 3 hexes, which would be 12 of these, we are covering 8 of them. So we're about here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to have to get a small marker for here. Back in a second. This little screw will have to do. It's also hex shaped, so the ship is there. And well, even though it's taken us 19 days to cross the ocean, it's still going to take us several days at this speed to find a beach to land. What is the general weather like? Okay, that looks good. Yes, that's possibly sunny. Roll again. And then eventually the sun comes out. Are there any encounters off this foreboding island? All of this is high sea cliffs. And again, the top of the cliffs has overhanging foliage and a real dense, wet fog. There are no encounters on the end of day 20, so we'll have to make headway on day 21. Where do we end up? Oh, this is a new change. Extreme high winds. Right, you can navigate in extreme high winds, and the good thing is you don't lose control of the ship. So instead of moving 12 hexes, we get to move 24 hexes. Finally, as soon as we reach the island, we get up some speed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Wow, we end up down there. Okay, not complaining. What was the weather like apart from being extremely windy? Well, there was a lot of cloud cover blowing over to go with those extreme winds. Rain comes lashing down, so yes, the wind is blowing, not quite at gale force, which is a 12, but it's blowing considerably, and there is horizontal rain, and it is beating down. This is tropical rain that most of the party have never seen before. This would make visibility really poor. They can sort of see the land is flattening and the cliffs have gone, and there is some sort of beach-like structures here, which means the navigation around the coast is likely to be safer and less rocky. but still, the captain is not happy. We're traveling at such speed, so close to land, anything could happen, and he warns everybody, if this wind gets any stronger, we could end up on the rocks. Will that happen when the party wake up on day 22? I was going to finish there, but I have a couple of corrections to make. Firstly, we have moved 32 X's on this map, and the ship is slightly damaged. We need to take away 10%, so I will move back 3 X's to here. The second mistake I made was that I said the party will wake up tomorrow morning. They will hardly be sleeping tonight. Let's be honest, we've got driving winds and we have lashing rain. This is a storm at sea. This is their welcome to the island, and never before have the landlubbers on our ship seen the sea so chaotic. Everywhere they look, part of it seems to be swelling upward and part of it seems to be plunging downward. This is actually quite frightening, and our dwarf, well, finally his dinner comes up. So on that note, that's where we will leave it today. I'm tempted to roll for tomorrow's wind just to see if it gets worse and we finally hit a gale and lose control of the ship, but we will find that out next time. So I will see you then.